All right, people on the internet are asking if the White House is trying to distance itself from Natalie Harp. The official X page for the White House posted this video of Trump waving the green flag at the Freedom 250 Grand Prix Sunday. The internet quickly noticed that Natalie Harp was basically cropped out of the photo. And Harp has been stealing headlines since that jab from Senate candidate Jon Ossoff. That was more than a week ago. Then there was this leak of her letters, things she had written to the president, moments when she called herself unworthy of him. And now people are looking at her deleted tweets, which show her support for the president on January 6th and after. Reports that she was also the one behind a racist Truth Social video that depicted the Obamas as apes. So, is her spotlight getting too bright? I'm bringing in Maggie Haberman, White House correspondent with the New York Times. She's also the co-author of the new book, Regime Change, Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. This story has taken on legs longer than, some bickering from the candidate from Georgia. And one of the things I noticed right away was that leak of letters of hers. It felt as though somebody, like the call was maybe coming from the inside of the House. And is she making enemies in the White House?
Jonathan and I get into this pretty, not extensively in the book, but we do write about Natalie Harp and how purely devotional she is to Donald Trump. Those letters were left, and we write about them again in the book, in his personal spaces during the interregnum period when he was out of office. One of them said, "You are all that matters to me." These letters and some of her behavior alarmed people around the president, then candidate, including the Secret Service. And they spoke to people about what was happening at the time. She is now, there's two factors here, Artie. One is she is 10 feet away from him in the Oval Office all the time. She supplies him not with all of his information. He obviously gets intelligence briefings and so forth that she doesn't prepare. But she provides him sort of this alternate version of information, including that plays into his view of the deep state, in his words, of his own government, of being suspicious of what he is being told. And she was one of the people who he took with him on that plane when the older Air Force One was a decoy plane. Very small group of people. So that's part of why there is a focus. It matters not because, the salacious implications aside that the senator did and others have done. It matters because she's in government and she's close to the president.
People are also pointing out her tweets specifically after he was impeached. Mm-hmm. And I have to admit, I kind of feel like being close to Trump, table stakes, is being supportive of the Steal and Ditz movement. It doesn't feel like it's all that unusual to have a person who would espouse these kinds of ideas. Again, why do you think it's drawing so much attention?
I think that there is now an interest in her because she is so close to the president, because, she is not a public figure. Why is she getting all of this attention? When you are in government and who is around a president is always something that is going to be of note and of interest. To your point about those tweets, whatever you would call them now, X posts that I think are deleted, yes, the loyalty issue. Do you believe that January 6th was a legitimate protest and peaceful? Do you believe that Joe Biden won the election? The correct answer when it was asked to prospective job candidates during Trump's transition was not yes, it was no. And so you are right that this is what everybody is expected to say. Where were you on January 6th? What were you saying that day? Were you critical on January 7th? But again, she is a neon sign of why this term is so radically different than term one. For all of the belief that there were plenty of sycophants in term one, there was no one like this.
Okay, that's Maggie Haberman. You can check out her new book, if you haven't already, Regime Change, Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. Thanks so much, Maggie.
All right, years before Natalie Harp became a key White House aide to President Trump, she flooded her Twitter feed with posts demonstrating extraordinary devotion to him on January 6, 2021, the day of the Capitol riot. CNN's Isabel Chapman and Andrew Kaczynski reviewed Harp's now removed account on X, and Isabel Chapman is joining me right now. Isabel, what did you learn?
So in the last week or so, there has been a lot of attention focused on the president's aide, Natalie Harp. And that's in part because Senator Jon Ossoff invoked her when criticizing the president, but also because of the administration's pushback when it defended her role in the White House. Her consistent proximity to the president and her loyalty have stood out even among Trump's very devoted inner circle. We wanted to get a sense of how far back this devotion to Trump extended, and we learned a lot in examining a now removed Twitter feed from Harp, which goes back many years. What was particularly interesting was a series of posts related to the events of January 6, 2021, the day Trump supporters broke into the U.S. Capitol while Congress worked to certify Joe Biden was the winner of the 2020 presidential election. More than 150 tweets that have since been deleted. It's unclear if X deleted these posts or if Harp did, but they offered a public display of fealty before, during, and after the Capitol riot. At the time, Harp was working as a conservative news anchor, but she continuously praised those fighting to keep Trump in office and repeatedly cast him in heroic terms.
So what did she say exactly about the president and his allies that day?
In one post, she amplified Rudy Giuliani's call, "Let's have trial by combat." Lawyers for him later said this call was hyperbolic and not a call for violence. In another, as the president started speaking near the White House, she wrote, "Fight for Trump" a dozen times within a single post. She also specifically called out lawmakers who had supported the election results, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, praising their courage and calling them patriots. I should add that neither Harp nor the White House responded to our queries about these posts.
So besides January 6th, what else did you find Harp had written about on Trump? On
Harp
X?
had long Harp had long been tweeting about Trump. We found posts dating back to 2016 praising him. We also found that on the day of his impeachment, she tweeted Bible verses referencing him. In one, she tweeted at him saying, "I thank God upon every remembrance of you." And in another, she wrote, "Vindicate at real Donald Trump, my God, and plead his cause against an unfaithful nation." Now, all of this fits a pattern that has continued since she began working for the president. Several years ago, like the letters from Harp to Trump that were published by the Daily Beast earlier this week, in which she wrote to the president about the devotion she has for him. CNN didn't independently confirm the letters, but the White House did defend them, telling CNN she is, quote, "one of the most loyal and hardest working aides of the president."
All right. Isabel Chapman, thank you so much for bringing all that to us. And to read Isabel's full story, you can find it on CNN.com.